Look at him.
Hey,
What's up, man?
Changed out of his
not
tuxedo.
much. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Good, man. Are you in California?
Yeah, I am today. Yes,
Nice.
my
Nice, man.
California patch on my hat. I changed it based on what state I'm in.
Fair enough. There you go. So welcome, man. So this is pretty relaxed. So we're just gonna shoot the shit, ask some questions. If you have anything you feel like you want to share, we'll go there.
Sure.
But I just wanted to bring you on because obviously I saw your talk at the Motivate and Move Summit last year. And, just from talking to you and stuff, I know you do a lot of great work, and I feel like a lot our people can get a lot out of just talking to you. So I appreciate you doing this, man.
Yeah, man.
So, anybody want to jump in? Do they have questions first?
I do.
Mike has a question. Mike wants to start. So go
Hey,
ahead.
Mike.
Man.
Actually, hey Steve, how you doing, bud?
Good. Haven't seen you forever, man.
Yeah, how you been? Good.
Good. What's up?
That reminds me, Chase wanted me to ask: are we going to do this at Rebel here in the spring? Summer?
I've got to talk to him and Jeff, but we're definitely doing it in August in Chicago. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's do that. So I had a very kind of pertinent to your realm conversation with one of our faction nights this morning about the fact that sometimes to keep your community healthy, you got to do a little pruning. And it's a hard speed bump to get over because it feels like a negative action. If you tell somebody that they can't work out at your place anymore, you might not be a good fit for them. Can you talk a little bit about your mindset on that and kind of what instances you've run into where you've in fact had to just tell somebody that maybe we're not a good fit together, and how that has positively affected your community?
Sure. I think it's a great question because it totally comes up. But two, I'll give the caveat that it doesn't come up as much as people are afraid it will, I think. But it definitely does. So it's better to be prepared than not prepared. I'm of the heuristic that I use for it is it's important to keep in mind who you serve. If you know your customer, the underserved market that you specifically as a coach want to help. That doesn't mean you need to turn everyone away, but it just gives you focus. So when someone is causing a problem, when someone might not be a good fit, that's what you're working around the fit for. Hang on, let me turn off the notification. Forgot to do that. So if someone is not quite fitting in, you have to know what fit means for yourself. When you say fit, you're like, oh, I mean, they're not helping my other customers. They're not jiving with the community that we're trying to make here. So having a really good idea of who you serve is a first place to start. The second, if you do decide that the person is not helping your grander mission of supporting the people that you're there to serve, then it comes down to, is there a way that I can have a conversation with them to bring them more aligned with values of the community that I'm trying to serve? Or is it just a straight up, they can't be here anymore. They're just causing too much harm. And then it comes time for what Mark Fisher refers to as the 59th Street conversation. And that is because he escorts that person to 59th Street and outside the building to have the discussion with them of, this isn't working out. This isn't going to be a good fit. There's some things to remember for that conversation. And that is, you're essentially setting boundaries. You're essentially saying, hey, this is how what you're doing or how you're talking or how you're being is impacting me and my community and us. And then to make it very clear that they're not going to be welcome there, but that doesn't mean that they're not a person who is worthy of love and being welcomed somewhere else. So there's a very clear line between, hey, you're not a good fit for here versus, hey, you're a bad person who doesn't belong anywhere. You need to draw that distinction. And that is where unconditional positive regard comes in. Communicating this in a way that goes, this is, hey, we've given this a shot. We really appreciate all the work that you put in coming here and trying to be a part of this community. I don't think it's going to work out for us, and these are the reasons why, and this is why I feel that way. However, let's talk about getting you into a place where you are a good fit. Let's talk about how we can work together to find that gym for you, to find that community for you. Because then you're still taking an active part in their care as a human being, and you're still showing them that you care about them enough as a person to get them to a place where they do belong. And that is always unexpected. No one ever expects to be kicked out of a place and helped into a new place. So that's you're already going above and beyond when you're saying, I'm going to help you find a new gym. And my favorite example of this is not from gyms. My favorite example of I think the best way I've ever seen this done is one of my best friends was the sommelier at Alinea. So those of you in Chicago probably know what Alinea is. Best restaurant in the world. Best restaurant in the world, where you show up, there's no menus, you sit down and you have a 4-hour life-changing experience that involves 40 courses of food. If you don't expect that when you walk in, you might be disappointed. And my friend Scott had a sixth sense for when people were showing up not knowing what they were getting into. And when people were a little surprised and going, oh, I don't know what's up with this, especially if they were two business tie looking dudes who clearly were like, I just wanted a steak and this place was the most expensive, so I thought I could get the best steak. He'd go over to them, inform them about like what was going to happen. And like, if he saw the look of fear on their face, he'd say, if this isn't the right thing for you, like if you don't want to do this, by all means, don't worry about it. This first drink's on us. I've already called down to Ruth's Chris and gotten them a reservation. I've gotten you a reservation there, and the cab to Ruth's Chris is on us. I'm going to pay for and we're going to get you over to Ruth's Chris where you're going to have an awesome time, because this just wasn't the right fit for you. And that's cool. You haven't offended us. So that's the best way I know to handle that kind of thing, is you think about where you getting them to that next place instead of just kicking them out of your place. Is that helpful, Mike?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the real important issues that you address there is to have a strategy going into it and kind of just make it not an attacking or, something about character, just it's just business. We're just a bad fit for you.
Yeah. And I think, you just said something really great there. We're a bad fit for you. Like you turned it around. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So making it a little bit more about what you offer and your customer, and maybe you could help them find something that is a better fit for them. So one more thing off of that is, to help avoid that situation, what kind of marketing strategies and what kind of stuff do you put in your marketing to help people know exactly what they're walking into?
I've always tried to focus on the what will happen in terms of learning versus what will happen in terms of outcome. I'm a big fan of putting things in marketing that are being like, instead of testimonials about what happens to people, testimonials about what people experience and what people learn. Because I think that is the day in, day out, that's what people are going to be experiencing in your community. So just lead with that, show that that's what's going to happen, and don't use a bunch of stuff that's going to get people thinking that other stuff's going to happen, if that makes sense. Yeah, just cram as much process and as much like what you'll learn, what skills you'll learn, that kind of stuff, as opposed to outcome. So I think that helps a lot too, is to stay focused on that part.
Yeah, and then kind of establishing yourself as the professional, right? So if you come here, we're doing things my way because this is what we do here.
This is the way that we describe it is everything is optional, and this is what we do here.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Like you can do whatever the hell you want. This is what we're doing over here. So this is where you come if you want to do that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And you got to do that like right up front.
Right up front and every day.
Right. And we've all kind of had those clients that come in and say, they tell us they want to accomplish this, and this. But this is when I'm going to see it. This is for how long. These are the exercises I won't do. this, and that. And then they start laying down parameters, and you got to, as professionals, we kind of got to step in and say, well, I don't know if I'm going to work with you then, because this is how I do things. I can set you up with somebody else, but.
Yeah. And that's a great opportunity for that conversation. And then just to keep reiterating, hey, you can do things however you want. You can do whatever you want to do. And this is what we do here. Like if you're afraid of squatting, you don't want to, like, there's a big difference between I don't squat and I've never squatted before, I'm afraid of squatting. If you're like, no, I don't do squats, we're like, we squat every day here. So that's like a fifth of the stuff that we do. You might get bored. I'm throwing that out there. And make it about them instead of about a judgment of them. Like, hey, if you don't want to do squats, I should let you know we squat a lot.
Yeah, good stuff, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike.
Cool. Who's next? I'm going to let this awkward silence go for as long as I can.
Oh, I'm ready.
Go ahead, Rob.
Steve, talk to me about how I create the best hot tub party possible.
That's a great loaded question. Well, for step one, get a hot tub. Step two, get Miller High Life. I don't really know if there's a step three. But for those of you who don't know, we at Habitry refer to a positive motivational climate where people are perceived that their basic psychological needs are being supported, their need for autonomy, competence, and belonging. We refer to that environment as the hot tub party or the hot tub. The absolute best way that I know to make sure that you're maintaining that environment where you're always doing your best to support your client's basic psychological needs is three mantras that I keep in my mind at all times. And conveniently, I got them from my grandfather. I didn't get this from fancy psychology books. Number one, be clear. Be clear about what you are doing. Be clear about who you're serving. Be clear about what you are expecting of people. And most importantly, when I say be clear, it's make sure you're checking from people that you're being clear. Not just that you spend a lot of time on a spreadsheet and it looks really good in your spreadsheet. Always check for understanding. Always be going like, hey, I'm going to suggest this. How's that feel with you? And then make sure that the words you said were what they heard. Because that disconnect happens a whole lot. So always be paraphrasing and making sure that people are picking up what you're putting down. The second thing is be a good host. This sounds like an obvious thing for a hot tub party, but it's one that goes unrecognized in a lot of times. And think of whatever you're doing, whether you're working one-on-one, whether you're hosting an online community, whatever it is, think of it as inviting people over to your house for a party. You want to show them the bathroom. You want to let them introduce them to other people who you might think they'd have a good chat with. You want to let them know where the bar is. So you need to think about inviting people to your home and the way that you would do that, not make assumptions on how people are perceiving stuff. If you see someone who is obviously afraid of the heavy objects that are in your gym, being a good host means showing them, like giving them a little demonstration, taking some of the fear out of it, maybe introducing them to someone else who has used the heavy things and isn't scared. Like, think about how you invite people to your home and that highly attuned way when you invite someone to your house, that you're always making sure that they're comfortable. So keep that in mind. Be a good host. And third, and absolutely most important, the thing that my grandfather said probably every time I hung out with him, so much that it put it in the dedication to my book. It's more important to be interested than interesting. Be interested. Be interested in everything about what they're going through. Be interested in their experience of the workout. Be interested in their experience of the words you just said. Be interested in their experience outside the gym as it pertains to you professionally. That doesn't necessarily mean, who they're dating and whatnot. But if you don't care, you don't have to. But be interested in their experience as a person and what they're going through. And if you can keep that in mind, the hot tub kind of works out. Like if you're just so hella interested in what people's experience is, that when you hear an excuse, you immediately think, oh, why is that? What's going on with you? Instead of immediately getting mad and frustrated, always be in their head, trying to figure out the way they see the world. If you can pull that off, you're going to have a fantastic freaking hot tub party. But the reason they're mantras is they're really hard. I always got to remind myself.
Totally. That got you, Rob?
Thanks, Rob.
Yep. Who else? Or I'll start firing off questions. Okay, my turn. So we focus a lot on everything that you just said, based on self-determination theory and basic psychological needs. We do it in this program and we do it at our gyms. And I'm just curious on some of the ways that, in habit training with your clients that your autonomy is supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you like specific examples?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Some of the kind of the, I guess, one of the interesting things about being supportive of basic psychological needs is, and I'm sure you've run into this too, Todd, is that it's not a checklist. Like there's no like a simple if this then that. I think the best description of it is from Jennifer LaGuardia, who is a self-determination theory researcher and an active a psychologist who actually sees clients. And she's designed interventions for millions of people and also works with people one-on-one. She's this huge wealth of knowledge. And she said, supporting people's basic psychological needs is a mindset, not a checklist. And some of the things that I keep in mind as I'm working with people, specifically to support their autonomy, is always trying to understand their perspective, and always trying to communicate to them that everything is optional. Even in giving specific commands, underlying that command with, but you're an adult who can make your own choices. That's the mindset. Some specific ways that shows up is making suggestions, not telling, saying, here's my plan. What do you think about that? Immediately following up with a way for them to participate in what's going to happen. Always giving them opportunities to contribute in any way that they can, big or small. If someone wants to write my programming for me, hell yeah, I hate writing programming. They get to contribute by writing programming. But if someone's like, I don't like the music today, like, oh, fantastic. Why don't you pick the new Pandora station? Like, opportunity to contribute, fantastic. If someone wants to name a workout, if someone, like, any way that they can contribute to the community, to the workouts, to whatever it is that we're making together, give them a way to do that. Or especially if they're actually saying stuff, I want to do this, I want to do that, get the hell out of the way. Let them do it, because it's going to be even better. Other specific examples, letting people pick if you're doing loaded carries, let them pick the distance. I mean, that's a weird thing to say, but that's when someone asks how far and you immediately say, go as far as you want. Like you've just created an opportunity for them to feel autonomous. And it just comes up in these little ways. And one of the mantra I have that is probably, I don't know if it's good or bad, is, can't someone else do it? And if you're doing anything and you ask yourself, can someone else do this thing that I'm doing? Then you're automatically going to start thinking of ways for people to contribute and thinking of ways for people to participate. And then beyond that, like on a basic skills level, like as a coach, open-ended questions and paraphrasing. If you're constantly practicing, like actually practicing asking open-ended questions and paraphrasing and making that a part of what you think your job is, as much as learning what the names of muscles are, then you will be doing it by habit. You won't even have to think about how am I supporting people's autonomy. If you're constantly asking them a bunch of questions about their experience, then you're supporting their autonomy. That it'll be second nature. I think I had one more, and I forgot what it was off the top of my head. But if it comes, I'll blurt it out.
No, that's rad, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Who else, guys?
I'm ready.
Go ahead, Wes.
All right, first, Steveo, I'm glad you remembered me. That was going to be my first question.
I don't
we
know
had
how
a lot
I
of
could
fun.
ever forget you.
Okay, good. I had so much fun with you in Chicago. How do you deal with like clients and shit that constantly do self-talk? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm fat, or I feel fat, or whatever. You know?
Oh, totally. That's a big one. That's a tough one, and it's so common, man. It happens a lot. And there's a couple of tips I have for it. One is, this is kind of basic, but I love it, and I forgot where I got it, which is going to be embarrassing for when the person I'm stealing it from catches me, because I've totally spaced on who did this. But every time someone in their gym says something that is negative or existential, like I can't do this, then they've made a call and response in the gym that if anyone hears that, they immediately jump in and say, yes. So if you say, I can't squat that, someone else from the gym, from the community will say, yes. And it just kind of makes everyone laugh, and it becomes this call and response thing, but it's also slowly cracking the ice on people's existential thinking and getting them more to a growth mindset, and sort of pushing that negative self-talk away with some humor. And it even put it in emails and stuff. I loved that idea. Like anyone someone says something existential, just throw in a yet. Nice simple trick that your community might even have fun with. If you've got a specific client that is using a lot of negative self-talk, I'm like in the conversations with you, my first suggestion would be, don't get frustrated, get curious. It's hella frustrating. And I know this because my mom does this. And I just spent a week with my mom, and it drives me nuts because she's very, like, she's even using Duolingo to relearn French. And she's like, oh, I'm not good at French. And I just want to go, yeah, you just got to do Duolingo and then you won't be bad at French. But I resist that and instead take a deep breath and get really curious. You're like, oh, why is it that you think that? Why is it that you think that this is going to be such a struggle? Or why is it that you perceive such a barrier to this, to progress? I'm going to get my hat because I don't like the way my hair looks. And other thing to remember is that not everyone, reframing stuff as a positive is a really high skill when it comes to psychology. Like people who have, like my wife, who have this preternatural ability to get bad news and turn it into good news, that's a skill that takes years to learn. So don't expect people to be good at it right out of the gate. Instead, focus on helping them find ways to say what they just said that feels natural, that's less negative. One of my professors said, remember that for someone that's always negative, a neutral statement is a huge improvement before you get to positive. So just see if you can go with neutral. And by way of example, if someone's saying, I'm never going to be able to lift that weight, and for them, reframing it as, I don't know if I'm going to be able to lift that weight, instead of I'll never lift that weight, is an improvement. So making the suggestion is like, how do you know that? How do you know you're never going to be able to lift that? Well, I guess I don't know that. And be like, okay, guess you don't know that yet. We'll find out together over time. Just get them to neutral instead of trying to focus on getting them all the way to positive. So asking them, get interested, ask them about their experience, try to figure out why they're saying that in a non-judgmental way. Make suggestions for ways to look at situations that are slightly less negative instead of all the way positive, because you don't want to, being Pollyanna, you don't want them to you want to lose your rapport with them because they think that you're always positive. Like, meet them where they're at and then just go a little bit more positive. And then use that great yet trick, that kind of existential, a way to stop existential thinking with a growth mindset. Just throw in yet. So those would be my 3 suggestions for how to start the process of unlocking that. But for your perspective, know that it's going to take at least a year to get to see like massive improvement on that. So take at least a year.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Who else?
What about in a similar situation where the negative self-talk turns into them outwardly expressing almost like self-hate when it comes to body image? Like, and I can give you an exact example. It would be a member in here who saw herself on video and said that she almost quit the gym because this is someone that's like killing it in here. And they almost quit the gym because they saw themselves and they thought, well, what is this for? Because I'm not making any improvement. And I feel bad for you guys that you actually have to put up with someone like me who's just clearly not a model client. And on, just negative to the point where it pissed me off. I had to be like, stop, like, please don't say anything else. But then to get them back neutral, and I mean, and to kind of like wrap that up, it came back around when she came and apologized weeks later and had like massive breakthrough of positivity. But I'm not even so sure how we got there. But during that moment of extreme negative self-talk, like hateful self-talk, what do you do?
Well, was she in public or is this like a private conversation with you? Or was she saying this in front of other people?
It was mixed. So she approached me one-on-one. I mean, we're in a gym full of people. Other people could hear. But I don't think she was trying to have other people hear, but she also wasn't trying to be secretive. Gotcha.
Again, my mantra, get interested. Be really, really interested in what she said. And I don't just say that like as a blanket statement because it's good for the other person. It's also really handy for us as coaches to sort of take our own emotions out of it and try to understand things from our client's perspective, especially when we're mad. Like you said, it's incredibly frustrating. You want to yell at her. I totally get that. I would want to yell at her too. But the way that like I personally try to pull myself out of that situation and is make it all about them and try to understand why she was so upset. And not to go immediately into advice or solutions, just go into understanding mode. Understand what she's like, why she's so upset, why she's thinking of quitting the gym, and don't try to fix anything. Just set a clock and be like, for the next 20 minutes, I'm only going to try to figure out what she's thinking about. And then I'm not even going to offer suggestions or advice until later. Like really focus on being interested. After that, that actually might work to calm someone down a lot because it's so unexpected. Like we don't really have genuine conversations a lot with people where people are genuinely interested in our experience. So that might be enough to bring her down. But if she wants to quit, let her go and thank her for all of the work that she's done and thank her for all of the contributions she's done to the community. If someone wants to go, let them go. That sounds weird, but what you're doing is supporting their autonomy to make their own decision to go. But what you should do in that moment is take the opportunity to demonstrate your unconditional positive regard and the fact that they're always, always, always welcome. Someone is be like, hey, that stuff that you're saying about like how it's bad for us at the gym, it's absolutely not. We've loved having you here. You've done so much for us, and we love having you in this video. If you still are giving us permission to use this video, we want to put it everywhere because we're so enamored with what you've done here. So if you're not comfortable, like if you don't want to continue your membership here, just know that we're really going to miss your contributions, and oh my gosh, you're always welcome. Maybe even go a step further and say, if you're welcome, the next month's on us. But do it in a way that's more about about her contribution, not to feel sleazy like you're trying to pull her in. Like it's important to know that balance. But just as a way of like really demonstrating how much you appreciate her contribution. Yeah. And because what that does in that moment is make it about her and her contribution and about the stuff that she's doing for the community. And that makes it about different values than looking good naked. You're trying to remind her of all of the other reasons that she's doing this without telling her the other reasons she's doing it, because that's controlling. You want to be like, in that conversation, be like, well, what are some of the other stuff you've gotten out of this time here? Your body hasn't changed that much, but I'm hearing that you don't think your body hasn't changed that much. Don't actually say that. Don't actually tell her that her body hasn't changed that much. Just paraphrase back what she's saying and say, oh, but it's easy to go upstairs. You can play with your kids. Like all of those things that you elicit from her, remind her of that she said those things. These are the values that she is also working towards that aren't this looking good naked thing, shiny object over here. And then remind her that she's always welcome to come work on these values that she's listed, and that you just text me and we'll get your membership started immediately, and we're right back at it. So that's the way that I would handle that, is an overemphasis on community and the other values, and say, you're welcome to go. I'm not trying to keep you. We want this, but here's all the things that we love about having you here.
Perfect. Yeah, I think like where I said that I felt like it was probably a little bit random, the positive breakthrough 2 weeks, but I think almost every single thing that you mentioned happened and for the most part was said. I think where maybe I could have done better is that she was, Todd, I think I'm echoing because of you.
Hold on, I'll shut the door.
We're in the same gym. As she was saying something where I was saying that I was getting angry, my anger wasn't being like, shut up. My anger was that I countered every single thing that she said with a positive, like you were saying, but I think that I probably bombarded her a little bit, where she would say, well, I hate the way that I look, and I'd be like, but look at what you've done. Look at this and this and this and this. And no matter what I said, her counter was like super negative on herself. But the one thing is that it was almost like when she said that she thought about quitting was like the clear thing. She also during that time said but in the end I realized that I would never leave here because of the blah, 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 and everything else. So it was almost like an attention thing. And I think that's what, in a way, part of what ticked me off more, because I was like, I felt like she didn't actually want something in that moment. She just wanted to tell me how much she hated herself. And it was so I guess what I'm really saying is that's awesome. I think I have a better understanding of why some of the things did work and what we could have done better. So
yeah, clearly you did something. You did more than something. You did a lot right, because you came back. That's a huge indicator. From your description, it sounded like you handled it really well, man.
Cool, thanks. That's not what I was going for.
Pat on the back, achieved. Cool. Who else?
I've got a question.
Go for it, Kirk.
Steveo, Kirk up here. How you doing?
Hi, Kirk.
So when we talk about building a community, I feel like a lot of times the facility I'm in, the members that we have are actually coming here almost as an escape, a place to escape and be by themselves. So instead of trying to build a community where we're trying to bring everybody more together, if that's not what our folks are looking for, is there a way that we can give them more of what they are looking for, give them more of is that a thing, or should we be trying to give them more of a place to have on their own versus trying to get everybody to come together?
I mean, it's kind of it depends answer. But I think actually I saw this on Facebook the other day. I don't know who said it, but the only right answer to any question is either it depends or that's the wrong question. But yeah, this is an it depends situation. I think what you're probably seeing is you've got a mix of clients, and you're probably noticing a lot more introverts than real extroverts, which is to be expected. Everyone's a little different in that regard. What's not different is that everyone does want to feel like they belong somewhere. Everyone wants to feel like that they are in conditions which are referred to as a mutuality of care. I've got your back, you've got mine. We're helping each other out. We're working on the same thing together. You can get that. Extroverts can get that too. It's just that it usually doesn't look like cheerleading. It doesn't look like photos with everyone and stuff like that. And I would go into that situation with thinking of those introverts and say, what are the indicators that they see? What is it that they're picking up from this environment that lets them know that we like them, that other people here like them, and that we've got each other's backs? So that can be, it can be a lot of stuff, but that answer, it was the key in that phrase is that we like them, and it feels genuine, like we like them as people. So if you've got a bunch of introverts, taking the time to ask them a question, ask them to communicate with them in the ways that they want to be communicated with, which could be, if they don't want anyone to talk to them in the gym, maybe it's email, maybe it's a sidebar, maybe it's a way for them to talk, to give feedback that makes them feel like they belong and that you feel like you like them and care about what they're saying. So weirdly enough, a suggestion box would be a really great tool for a gym full of introverts, because it's a way for them to give you feedback that doesn't feel like it doesn't drain them of energy. So taking the time to send out an anonymous anonymous poll where they can give feedback, any way that they can contribute, but in a way that doesn't feel like it's invasive or demanding of their time and energy. It's just in a situation with a lot of introverts, maybe something like collaborative competition wouldn't be very fun for them. But this is, I'll give a reference for this in a second, but maybe give a newsletter where they can hear stories about other people in the gym success, or hear about other things going on in the gym that doesn't interrupt their gym time. So my reference for that is Lift the Bar in the UK found that they had a lot of people lurking in their forums, and that's to be expected. If you're running an online community, you can expect about 1% of people to be super active, 9% of people to be kind of active, and 90% to be lurking, to just be passively consuming the information. So they created a little thing called Lurk the Bar, which was a special community for all the lurkers. And it was opt-in. Like if you're like, hey, I love this place, I love reading it, but I don't want to participate, you could opt in to Lurk the Bar and you got special other stuff. So it was a weird way of like rewarding lurkers. And it really, what it was Chris at the bar just kind of asked, hey, who here is lurking? Who here is just reading a bunch of stuff and hasn't participated? Is there anything we can do to make life easier for you? Is there any? And it was like, yeah. And I'm not saying this would be a specific thing that you should do, but ask those introverts in a way that they're comfortable giving you feedback. What can we do to make this place feel like it's more special to you? And just the act of asking will make it feel more like a community. And it could be things like a special newsletter. It could be things like, it could be anything. It's going to come from them. It could be childcare. I don't know. But if you give them a way to give feedback in a way that is comfortable for them, then it'll be genuine and it'll be honest, and you'll know that it's they'll feel liked, which is the key to community building. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Cool. I think one of the key things about basic psychological needs that it gets confused a lot is people think that community looks a certain way, but remember that the need for relatedness is universal. So introverts and extroverts perceive relatedness in different ways, but the need is universal. So just ask the introverts how they perceive, like what they need, and then ask the extroverts what they need, and make sure that everyone's getting something.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Steve, I have something, man.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times people get being autonomy supportive and permissiveness confused.
Totally.
And I was just curious on, could you speak to that a little bit about ways to make sure that, that the responsibility is still there, but autonomy, the conversation's still open,
Absolutely. That's the tricky thing about the word autonomy is that it means one thing in self-determination theory research, and we kind of use it in lay speak in a different way. And I went to a whole lecture from Richard Ryan at the Self-Determination Theory Conference on what autonomy doesn't mean. Like, it was a whole section of a talk on, like, this is what I mean, and this is the 97 things I don't mean when I say autonomy. And what he said was, autonomy means, is a perception that what you are doing is something that you value. That's kind of it. And it doesn't mean independence. You can be completely independent and it feel controlling. For example, if you went to your doctor and your doctor said you had cancer, and then you said, what should I do? And your doctor said, whatever the hell you want. That doesn't feel autonomy supportive. It feels controlling because that person is withholding information from you, withholding advice from you. So being autonomous, like supporting someone's autonomy, doesn't mean letting them necessarily be independent. Supporting someone's autonomy does not mean, I'm trying to phrase this. You can be autonomy supportive in a cooperative environment. It doesn't necessarily mean pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, get your shit together, figure it out on your own. People can perceive both environments as autonomous. What comes down to is the way that they're perceiving it and the way that you're communicating it. And in fact, people tend to thrive more in situations where they feel like other people have their back because it promotes their sense of relatedness than necessarily being told that they're completely on their own. And so that's an important difference in the use of the word autonomy. Now, getting to your point about responsibility, this is actually a whole area of research that I think is Ken Sheldon and John Marshall Reeves do, which is how the way that our responsibility and autonomy intersect it comes down to a way of describing, when you're working with someone, describing what it is and why it is you're working with them. So if there's a big difference between saying, this is what you said you wanted to do, why aren't you fucking doing it? And this is what you said you wanted to do. Let's talk about how, let's talk about the ways that you're meeting it and not meeting it, and how we can do it, and how we can do it better together moving forward. Both are helping someone be responsible. One is autonomy supportive and one is controlling. There's a big difference between, it really comes down to is people like being held responsible to their values. They like being held responsible and given a structure for how to live up to their values better. So if we give them that structure, if we say, if you show up here 3 times a week, it's a really good indication that you care about this. And then when they don't, we have an excellent opportunity to say, hey, you haven't shown up in the last 3 weeks. Do you want this? Do you care anymore? I still think you're a cool person if you don't. This doesn't look like it's what you want anymore. And so let's talk about it. You're holding them up to their responsibility. They're saying, I wanted to do this. And you're towing a line. You're saying, I said, this is the structure. You show up 3 times a week. I know you care. You haven't shown up. I don't know you care anymore. Let's talk about it. Do you still care? That's how one can help someone be responsible to their values while supporting their autonomy. And I guess what it comes down to is you're being a Sherpa versus being a guide. One is, you said you wanted this. I'm here to help you hit those wickets. Help me help you. Let's figure out how to do it. I have some suggestions, but at the end of the day, you're the one who's got to show up. That's having that attitude versus I am the person who tells you whether or not you are responsible. That just feels controlling.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So that actually sparked another question. So I think a lot of times, and it's difficult because we're all at least perceived to be kind of one up. And I think it's very easy as we're helping people set goals to make those more of a contingent thing for them. Like they want to seek approval and make it, and it ends up becoming more of an introjection than it does become integrated. And how about anything based on that? Like how are ways to support people in that way without, making it seem like it's a contingent relationship and they try to interject rather than integrate?
Yeah. It's really, first of all, really great observation. That's a tough one because it's so natural when you're in a position of power, like we are, to subtly and subconsciously exploit it to try to manipulate people into doing what we want them to do. And I think it's one of the hardest things as coaches is to constantly remember that they are perceiving us in a position of power, and that we need to intentionally subvert that in order to get them to be their best selves. One of the hardest things for me is to not say, I loved that you did that, or I liked, or like to act like say those things when I actually do, because I'm very transparent. And when I say like, I love that you did that, I have to stop myself and think, if I'm constantly the person, if all praise flows through me, then I'm just creating a manipulative environment and it'll backfire eventually. And to take an active step back and say, what is a way that I can get them to observe what I just observed? What is a question that I can ask them that will get them to notice the thing that I liked, and for them to then say, I liked that I did that about myself. So instead of saying, I loved that you got all the way down on the squat, reframe it as saying, what did you notice about that rep? Did you notice you'd go any lower? And then they're going to pull it out of them instead of just blurting it out to them. If it's not something that they can notice for reasons of, because they're not there yet, find another way to get them to give themselves the compliment. And the other thing to remember is that other people in your gym, other members, their peers, the same is not as true for them. If a peer compliments a peer, it's very different than if an expert compliments someone who is not a non-expert. So creating a community where other people are complimenting other people about stuff that they've noticed is going to cover a lot of bases and is less risky than if all the awesomeness comes from you. But yeah, it's not simple. In fact, it's the hardest thing. It's something I have to work on as a coach the most. Is I'm so quick to tell people stuff I love about them that it can be perceived as controlling.
Yeah, that's great, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to monopolize this. Anybody else? Somebody's got to have something. Come on. Difficult client questions based on that. What to eat for dinner tonight? Steven knows a lot about food and drink, so that's a good place to start. What is your favorite drink?
Oh man, it changes. I go through phases. Right now, I'm really into old rum. So, well, buckle up. You asked a question I've got a long answer to. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, I have a long answer to every question. So, 10 years ago, everyone's drinking good bourbon, like old bourbon, and then bourbon got expensive, and then it got harder and harder to find great bourbon. I've noticed switched to Scotch, and then Scotch went crazy. Then lately it's been Mezcal, and if you've never had Mezcal, oh my God, you need to have Mezcal because it's like favorite. Scotch tequila. It's like so good. Scotch and tequila had a baby. It's so smoky and good. But now Mezcal's getting expensive. But when I was on my honeymoon in the Southeast and in Charleston, I noticed, man, rum's been really good for a long time. And they make it the same way they make the other stuff. But I can get a 23-year-old rum for $40, whereas a 23-year-old Scotch is $5,000. So I'll be right back.
Everybody talks about liquor when they come on here, Dan.
Well, I'm in my house, so
that's awesome. Dan showed us his whiskey collection.
Yeah, this is my favorite rum right now. It's Diplomatico Reserva Exclusiva, which is from Venezuela, and it tastes like a cocktail just on its own. Like it tastes like it's got lime in it and stuff. It's fantastic. And it's not as old. I want to say it's like 15. 15 or 20, but that's hella old. So right now I'm loving the rum. Although I just got back from Santa Fe, New Mexico, where there's this guy it's an Irish guy that's making Irish whiskey, but in New Mexico, but he uses mesquite to roast the malt, so it tastes like mesquite. It actually tastes like a Jameson campfire or something. Like, it's just phenomenal. So I had that all weekend too. And then, of course, my champagne is filled. My fridge is filled with champagne, and the champagne is beers. So that's also that's what I do.
You can slug High Lifes, man. High Life's great.
That's why I love it, because you can drink a 6-pack and drive.
Yeah.
It's like nothing happened. I just have to pee a lot.
I get that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
At my wedding, we only served champagne and High Life. Like, we had champagne and the champagne and beers. That was it.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's funny that you did an internship with Dan John, right? You went out and hung out.
I guess I'm still in it.
You're still in it? Because
yeah.
We had him on a few weeks ago, and he's walking us around his house, and he's showing us every booze that he has in his cabinet. It was pretty fucking rad.
Oh, man. My house is 382 square feet. I can show you my whole house by doing this. There. You see my whole house.
Where do you live?
I live in Emeryville, which is a little town surrounded on 4 sides by Oakland in the East Bay of California. And
California.
So, like, if you go over the Bay Bridge from San Francisco into Oakland, the place you touch down is Emeryville. So I live there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Nice, man.
Yeah. And my wife's an actor, so we live in an artist cooperative. So this is nice. I have this tiny little live workspace, and I've got artists on all sides. I got a ceramicist over there, a composer and a choreographer here, another choreographer there, visual artists over there. Like, it's really cool.
It is cool. That's a lot of I don't know what word I want to use. Well, creativity is an easy one. That's a lot around you, and I'm certainly sure that it pulls it out of you at some point, right? When you're
it's true. It's really fun because people knock on your door and be like, "Can I borrow you for art?" Like, and then you go over to their house, and then they're like, "Just stand here," and then they do art at you. Like, it's pretty fun.
Any like nude modeling type art stuff?
A lot, actually. Yeah. No, I mean, all joking aside, my wife does that a lot. So
nude exercising.
Nude exercising. Like, pretty much, there's no clothes in this place. Like, the only reason I'm wearing clothes is because it's cold as hell. Because there's also no insulation.
That's so great.
That's awesome.
In fact, that's one of the best things about Dan. In fact, I kind of stole the hot tub metaphor from all the times I spent in hot tubs with Dan. Never clothes. Like, the man he does not allow clothes in his hot tub in Utah. Like, there is a very strict no clothes allowed policy.
Is he packing heat?
I'm gonna plead the fifth because I know that someone will say something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's funny because I was talking to Brendan Rarick last year. Chris and I were
at my wedding.
Was he? Yeah, he's a great dude. Chris and I were supposed to go stay with Dan last summer and ended up not working out. And for some reason, I didn't know why. Brendan didn't give me any information. All that he said was, if he wants to get in the hot tub, don't get in the hot tub.
Yep, that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived with Dan for, I think, 6 weeks in Utah in 2012 or so. Whenever Intervention came out, that's when I lived there. This is a better example. Dan and Tiff and my now wife and I and Mike, I forgot Mike's last name, went to Costa Rica, and Dan arrived first, and so Kat and I arrived and knocked on the door of the home we were renting, and he opened the door, and he was closed at that point. He handed us 2 shots of Johnny Walker Blue. They were full glasses that we were supposed to sip. We got a tour of the house, which had a pool in the living room. Like, it was an atrium, and there was a pool, and you could watch TV from the pool. And by the time the tour finished, he was naked and in the pool. Like it was and this was the second time Kat had met Dan, and she was this surprised how quickly he got naked. She was like, all right, guess this is what the next week's going to be like.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing. Well, so I'm going to let you go. Anybody else have anything they want to finish up with? Any questions? Everybody feel pretty good about this? Good. It was awesome. Thanks, Steveo. It was really
Thanks,
great.
Steveo.
Anytime. This is fun.
Really appreciate it. It was great knowledge, man. It was just good. I really appreciate it a lot. So
yeah, Todd. Yeah, I appreciate seeing your beard this big on my screen. It's a
dude,
thing of beauty.
I found my first white hairs yesterday. I was like, "Fuck!"
Really?
Be gone,
man. I got them all right here. So many white hairs.
Well,
although you should check out if you don't know him, Brendan Gleeson, is an actor. Yeah, he has the greatest beard of all time, and it's fire red with like a huge streak of white here.
That does sound rad. Oh man,
it's so cool. Yeah,
I kind of want that.
Wasn't he
I do.
Braveheart?
What's that?
He was a Braveheart, right? He played.
Yeah, he was like.
He had that beard. Yes, I remember.
Yeah, he's in Braveheart. He's in the Harry Potter movies. He's in. Lately, he's been doing a lot of stuff with the McDonough brothers. So, like, if you want to check out a recent one, Calvary.
He was in Bruges too.
He was in what?
Bruges.
Yeah, he's in Bruges. He's in Bruges. Did he have a beard in Bruges?
No.
In Bruges? No, but in Calvary, he's got this fantastic beard. The movie will make you cry for a week, so maybe just look at still images from it. But it's a brilliant movie and a brilliant beard.
I'll have to check that out.
All right.
Well, thanks, Steve. We'll see you, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.